Hi everyone, and welcome to my first rundown. This is the first video of Pale Blue Dot. So, yeah, I'm starting out just doing some studies of famous and traditional paintings. This first one is going to be A Starry Night, which, I've been trying to use open source software, so I'm trying to learn how to use GIMP here. Previously I've used Photoshop. But honestly it's just way too expensive. So I've been trying to figure this out, and please excuse my use of brushstrokes, it's very rudimentary. But I think studies are always the best thing if you need to just turn off your mind, because you don't have to think about what things should look like. You can actually just see it, and especially if you're doing studies of paintings, the brushstrokes are already there, so you know which direction to follow. No, generally here I was just blocking out the colors. I was trying to get a blue, but I kind of settled on this kind of purpley color as the main color. And then you can see there's lots of overlap. I haven't quite nailed how to use the brush dynamics properly. So there's a lot of, there's quite thick strokes, which I just adjust manually. And yeah, you can see how I started with the moon. And I got it in a style that I kind of thought would be good as a precedent. And then I came through and I thought, just looking at the source, at the reference, that I don't have enough contrast in the image. So I started color picking and shifting around the tones and blocking in the mountains in the background. And then I thought, like, this image in the center where the village is supposed to be, the little hamlet, needed some fleshing out. So I just had a look at the colors and I started blocking it in, and essentially, and unfortunately, yeah, I didn't have really control over my brush strokes, so I just had to paint like how I used to with when I had a mouse, and I used to do paintings with a mouse. So I just did solid blocks and then went over them with more solid blocks, so I could get the illusion of painting with smaller strokes. But I quite like this. The point of the painting is not to have it one-to-one, it's just to do an interpretation and do a study of the color, the shapes, and the overall composition. So I quite liked the general brush strokes he did on the foliage, because it's so simple, but it like separates the form of like the hard shapes, which are the buildings, and the curved shapes, which are like the landscape. And then I just went into, once I was done with that, I know it might not look finished here, but once it's in the whole composition, seeing the actual brushstrokes sits very well with the mood. So yeah, I was just mixing and matching colors, adding additional detail and blocking out shapes. I wanted to nail the stars, and I only noticed now at this point, and this is, I suppose, Starry Night, is that the whole sky warps around the stars themselves, and sometimes it contradicts it. But yeah, I thought I want the sky to like flow around the stars themselves. And really just color picking and dropping different colors and making sure that there isn't like an isolation of color in certain places. Bringing in the strokes so you can actually feel the strokes and look at a distance. Something I normally do. And here you can see the final piece, which is not too detailed, but I think it captures the mood of the painting quite well. A big thing here for me is always to look at it as an icon, as a smaller representation, and you know that you're going in the right direction.